Perfect. Carrie, would you do the roll call?
Mr. Steinberg,
Here.
Mrs. Rorich,
Here.
Mr. White,
Here.
Mr. Lewis, Mayor Whittington.
Here. All right, we'll open it up for public comments. So if there's anything that you want to talk about that's not currently on the agenda, please step up to the podium, and you've got 3 minutes. All right, state your name and where you're.
My name is E.J. Brow. I currently live at 100 Connie Lane East, and I'm here to petition the council because when I moved in, we picked the biggest lot over there. All the other lots are approximately 62 by 130. This is don't know. Our lot is 180 by 130. And when the contractor, solicitor got all his information, he did not know that you guys had, how shall I say it? Worded it out in your, I'm not sure the word I should use.
Are you referring to the development, a planned
Yes.
unit development?
Yes. That we could not put a out structure on there. When we bought the place, we bought it because it was large. We wanted to put a shed on. He said, yes, you can. It's not a permanent shed, it's a movable shed. And, yeah, my house is 2,220 square feet, which includes the garage. The lot is 10,400 square feet. The shed I want to put on is 96 square feet.
Well, I think, okay. So your lot is plotted for that size?
We are the very first one coming in. And there's, the permanent house was on the corner. He would not sell. We're the next one in. So there's approximately 40 feet between my house and the property line.
Okay.
And, she said, no, according to everything that was written up by the county attorney, or city attorney, excuse me. And I would appreciate if you guys could redo that so that we can put a shed in, because I spent $4,500 for the shed.
Okay, well, we'll have to take a look at it. I know that it was brought up a little earlier. I don't know the entire,
Well,
all the issues with it.
okay.
So I haven't looked at the PDU yet to see, and the lot size and the plot, so we need to do that, right? So we can give you a better answer.
Okay. I was the first person, well, wife and I, to move into that area. And that's why
Okay.
we picked that lot.
No, definitely I would have picked it too, so.
I thank you.
All right, perfect. We'll take that, you and I? Do you want to do that now, or you want to? Yeah,
Okay.
if you have some.
Mayor and City Council, just give you a little background. I did talk to the developer, Troy Schramm with Fox Meadows. The planned unit development in which EJ lives that he referenced, when that was approved, the green space and the driveways are owned by the Development or Homeowners Association, and the space at the home and the garage on belong to the homeowner. But when it was approved as green space, and so I did talk to Mr. Schramm about that, and he said, when I talked to him last week, at that time, he was not interested in pursuing anything to change that, but if he would change his mind, it would need to come from the developer, and then they would need to start with the planning commission and then come to the city council to amend the planned unit development. So just give you a little process of what it would take to get that changed.
So how does that work? If his plat says that he owns 180 feet, and can that green space encroach into that 180 feet, or how does that work?
So it wouldn't be a pretty in-depth process, because when it was approved, we approved smaller lot sizes, so it's higher density in there, in that planned unit development, and we'd have to like I said, go to the planning commission, talk about each of the different lots and setbacks and kind of create, I guess, a set of criteria for that type of a situation. Right now, it was just approved that it's green space, you got the driveways, and that's how it was approved by the planning commission, city council.
So is there a recourse for the homeowner, or is there?
You
it
would
has
have to go
come
through the
you'd have
homeowners
to go-
association.
Okay,
The distance between our building and the next building to us is 40 feet. So
okay,
half of that belongs to, you know, the house that I'm on, but the other side of where I live is 40 feet.
okay.
That's why we're, you know, and he did say, you know, that we could put a shed on it, until he talked to you.
So I think what we have to have you do is go back to the homeowner association and start there, and
I
then,
did already.
okay,
He came up and did talk.
okay.
He said, the city said no.
As it's currently written, I
As
said
it
we have
currently
no
written, so
authority
It's
to,
written up.
yep,
Right.
yep.
So we have to have something from either the
Ron,
SHRM to start that process, and we happily take that process through the planning commission and go through it that way. But right now, there's nothing that we can do to start that process until we see it there. So,
yeah, I have, what is it? Figured this out. Oh, my house is 21% of the lot size.
no, I don't think there's any problem with coverage at all, so,
All right, thank you.
okay. All right, anyone else for public comments, or that's not on the, all right, we'll close that. We'll take a look at the agenda. Any updates on the agenda? We'll look for motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, so the approval of last minute, meeting minutes. Excuse me. Any changes, any updates needed? We'll look for a motion to approve minutes.
Motion.
Second? All right, we have a first and second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right, we're at the public hearings. So the first one we're going to talk about is the public hearing for the ordinance change.
Mayor Whittington, would you mind, I think we need to just approve the consent agenda,
yes, I
and then we
did.
can, nope, that's okay.
All right, consent agenda. Anybody want to pull anything out of the consent agenda? All right, I'll look for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second. We have a first and second. Any others? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Now we're at, I'm just trying to speed through it to get to these good things, so we've got to do it.
All
All
right.
right,
Go ahead and we can call the, or do a motion to open the public hearing.
all right. I'll look for a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion.
A second? All right, we have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
All right. Mayor Whittington and City Council, the purpose of tonight's public hearing is to consider ordinance number 2025-02, which proposes an amendment to Chapter 4, Section 4.165, Subdivision 3D of the Eagle Lake City Code regarding the permitted use of all-terrain vehicles, or ATVs, on sidewalks and boulevards. Included in the memo in the packet is a summary of the proposed amendment. The ordinance seeks to clarify that ATV operation on sidewalks and boulevards remains generally prohibited, but will allow an exception specifically for snow removal on public sidewalks under the following conditions. ATVs may be used for snow removal on public sidewalks. ATVs may cross a sidewalk or boulevard at approximately a 90-degree angle to access a street or alley, provided such crossing does not pose an immediate hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic. The proposed change is intended to support residents and property owners in maintaining clear sidewalks during winter months while still upholding overall pedestrian safety and limiting unnecessary ATV use on pedestrian pathways. So included in the packet is a copy of the public hearing notice that was published in the Mankato Free Press, which is the city's official newspaper. If there's no questions or concerns following the public hearing, city staff would recommend that you consider adoption of the proposed ordinance following discussion, and then following approval, we'll send it to the newspaper to be published, at which point it takes effect. Just to note, since the public hearing notice went out, I have not received any comments, concerns, questions, either in support or against the proposed amendment.
Okay. Anyone in the audience would like to speak on the proposed ordinance? Do we have any discussion from the council? I think it's pretty much what we talked about last time, on the residents on agency. All right, so can we go ahead and close the public hearing? All right, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, so I think we're down to presentations. Perfect. I think you're up.
I'll do a brief introduction. We have Angie Bursaw with Bolton & Mank. She's going to be here to give a presentation and an update on the Highway 14 corridor study that goes through Eagle Lake, and actually goes from Highway 12 to Highway 60. So, and I'll pull up Angie's slides in just one moment. Just to note, you do also have a printed copy of them at your workspace.
All right, thanks for having me. Again, I'm Angie Bursaw with Bolton & Mank. I was hired on behalf of MnDOT and the North Mankato Area Planning Organization. Just Hal Mentes from MAPO is here tonight. Ann Wolf from MnDOT is also in the audience. So I'm here to give an update to the council. We've been working on this for several months. I know Jennifer's been keeping you updated along the way. Want to give you an update on what we've been working on, where we're at with concepts, and just share all the information we have. So if you want to just go to the next slide here, just a preview of our study overview. So this is a corridor study. We are working on identifying a vision for Highway 14. As you know, there's been a number of improvements to this highway over time. This is really aimed at, what is the future vision, what are the needs, and what are the improvements that are needed to address those over the next 20 years or so on Highway 14. We have been at this approximately a year, and we've been dividing our study into 3 phases. The first phase from July to about fall of last year was focused on the needs and gathering input on what those needs are and community priorities. And then really the largest section of our work has been since January, focusing on the different improvement ideas, which I'm going to go through tonight. And then we're kind of transitioning now into the recommendations phase. So that will be where we wrap up with what are the recommendations for this corridor. There isn't funding identified for improvements at this point in time, but a corridor study is a good first step to get all of the various partners. Obviously, I'm here tonight. This is through the community of Eagle Lake. We have county roads that enter the highway. It is a state highway. Lots of agencies need to come together to come together on recommendations to figure out next steps. So on the next slide, I won't go through all the details here, but our 3 phases of work that I just mentioned, we have done a lot of public engagement. So as you can see, we've gone through 2 of those phases of engagement where we've done different things like open houses and shown up at different events throughout the community, both in Mankato and at different sites in Eagle Lake, and done some online engagement. We've had great participation. On the red squares on the bottom, you can see the number of surveys completed, different interactions we've had, number of people showing up at different meetings. It's been really great to have different touch points, not only with the residents, but also people who travel along the corridor every day. And we will have one final open house. It's not scheduled yet, but that's where we'll wrap up. So some of the things we've heard, you've probably seen this before, maybe from some of Jennifer's updates, but this is what we heard in our first phase. You know, what are the needs? No surprise here, but some of the key themes are shown on that chart on the side, the right side of the screen. Some of the key themes: safety, number one. Lots of concerns about how to safely enter and exit the highway, how to safely use the J-turns. Some people are actively avoiding the highway. They just don't feel safe using it. There's concerns about, you know, flow as well, that people are having to wait a while trying to get on and off the highway. And then also concerns about access, you know, how the access has changed over time along the highway, and what does that look like for local businesses and neighborhoods. So what that means then in terms of what we kind of compiled for, what are we trying to address out here on Highway 14? The big themes are, of course, safety, vehicle safety, vehicle mobility. We want to make sure that there is maintained traffic flow both on and off and across this corridor. You might be surprised to see walkability, bikeability, but we did hear that come up a couple times, not on Highway 14, but to get across the corridor. There are trails on both sides, you know, people wanting to get across. And then that last lower right-hand box, that's something we always look at. We know we have wetlands and lakes and properties. This is a developed area. We want to be sensitive to improvements that we suggest out here. So on this next slide, this is just a snapshot of what's out here today. You're all very familiar. I won't dwell on this very long, but as we start to get into these improvement concepts, it's also nice to kind of remember what's out here today when I start mentioning terms like right in, right out, and three-quarter access and interchanges. Just working the way from left to right, County Road 12 is the first P with the interchange box that you see there. That's our westernmost end of our corridor study. Obviously, there's an interchange there today. We're not proposing to do anything different with that. Then moving left to right, there's a right in, right out at County Road 86. We have the J-turn at County Road 56, then a three-quarter access, another J-turn, and then we start to get out of Eagle Lake with some township road accesses that are currently full access. You can make full movements at those intersections, and our furthermost eastern section is Highway 60. Again, full access at that location. So one more slide before I show the different concepts, where I want to spend most of my time here tonight. But just to let you know, we did look at a couple other things that we didn't draw up very far. This is very, marker sketchish here. There's been a lot of talk about, could we do an interchange at County Road 56 or 598? You can see Casey's, that's the Casey's intersection. We did a very preliminary drawing to say it would be really tough. It would be very tough to do an interchange at this location, mainly because of the lake on the north and then just the built environment on the south with Casey's. Yes, you could skinny that up, add some retaining walls, but again, your cost is going to go way up, and there's really nothing to connect to on the north, so you'd have a lot of cost for little benefit. So we moved past that as a committee with the different agencies very quickly. There was no value to looking at that further. We also, some people through our engagement have asked, what about signals? Why wouldn't you add traffic signals on Highway 14? That's something that a lot of communities are trying to get out of their highways, on highways like this, high-speed corridors. They're just not safe. Signals add crashes, and when you have high speeds like this, it's not something we want to introduce. An example is probably, if you're familiar with the Byron area over by Rochester, they're trying to get those signals out of that location. So we are not looking at signals anywhere around here. what we are looking at is things that do add some type of grade separation to the corridor, which means some type of structure to Highway 14. Basically, what's out there today is the maximum that we can do with keeping things at grade. You know, when we do a study like this, we try to start with what are the lowest cost improvements we can do to make it better. And that usually means avoiding bridges and anything on structure, because structures cost a lot of money. But what's out there today is about the maximum you can do without starting to add some structure. So we're looking at things like high T intersections, which grade separate one lane of traffic, one direction, and keep the other at grade, and they kind of do the intersection under a bridge. That picture in the top left-hand side here is actually at Highway 13 and 101 in Savage. If you're familiar with that location, it works very well. So it maintains free flow conditions on both directions of the highway, and the intersection is actually happening where cars are, making left turning movements. It's happening under the bridge. So it's a very efficient movement. A traditional full access interchange, I think you're all familiar with those. They work very well. They're very expensive, but they work very well. Right in, right out movements, those don't have bridges, but they come with a trade-off of less access. And then, things like overpasses where you just have a bridge over. So those are the types of configurations we started with and started to figure out, how can we put these together? And I think we started with probably 10 or 11 different concepts and got it down to 4 that I'm going to walk through tonight as a committee, that we thought these make some sense and that we took out to the public as well. So this first one, concept A, this shows a high T intersection at the County Road 56 intersection, which is the Casey's intersection. And so that would have, so the eastbound lanes of Highway 14 would actually go up and over, and the westbound lanes would stay, at grade. But all of the movements, so it'd be free flow in each direction on Highway 14, just like that 13101 example I showed you. It would have a sort of interchange at County Road 1727. It actually shows an overpass at 1727, and then, or Parkway and Marble. And then it shows a realignment on the north side, like a new connection to 14, where it would be a right in, right out. So it's just 2 points of access where you can make those connections. So on the upper right-hand corner of each of these slides, you can see we kind of measured safety, flow, traffic impacts, accessibility, cost, property impacts, sort of the evaluation and trade-offs of each of these. And then I just summed it up, the takeaways for simplicity in the bottom. This one really does have the highest level of access to Eagle Lake, 2 full points of access. There you go. And because of that, to the community, there's minimal traffic rerouting in and out of the community. The trade-offs with this, though, this is our highest cost option. It is $64 to $75 million, and that's in 2025 dollars. So it's not inflated to future, that's just today dollars. It's about $30 million more than any of our other options, which would make it very difficult to fund. That's, just comparatively, that's the cost of an entire interchange difference than any of our other options. And, you could, it was up above higher, but it does have a, this one is just a notch down in terms of crash reduction compared to the other options. It's still safe. It's a safe option, but when you consider you still have some conflicting movements at that County Road 56 happening, it's just one notch down from some of the others. Concept B and C, I'll go through pretty quickly. I'll just be very transparent. I think as a committee, these two are kind of falling, a little bit lower, and I think maybe even for the public too, just what we were hearing from feedback, that these seem to have a little bit more trade-offs than benefits. But this one again has a high T at County Road 56, so same as Concept A. The difference though is it has an overpass at Luray Avenue or County Road 55 and a right-in, right-out at Parkway or 1727. So it has one full access to Eagle Lake and one partial access. I think what we heard a lot and what I put as some of the trade-offs here is that there's definitely going to be some traffic rerouting with this option, you know, pushing anything from the north side of Highway 14 by that 1727 would be coming on Luray through that residential area. So, you know, there'd be some traffic rerouting and then just that limited access on the County Road 1727 with a right-in, right-out. Concept C. So this continues to have a high T at County Road 56, the Casey's intersection. It also has a high T, but just flipped in the other direction at County Road 1727. So just think about them as, you know, kind of contrasting high Ts here. It does have 2 points of access to the highway here. I think what we heard a lot about as a trade-off was that, you know, there really is no access to the south side of the highway at either County Road 55 or 1727. So kind of that whole east side of Eagle Lake, all of that access would need to happen at the County Road 56 or the Casey's intersection there. And both B and C are kind of in this moderate, it's called high cost, but it is a notch down from that Concept A. So in the 55 to 65 million. And then our last one, Concept D. So this one is a change from the other three that you've seen in terms of access at County Road 56, the Casey's intersection. So this one is showing a right-in, right-out there. So a right-in, and so that would be serving the eastbound traffic only at that intersection. All of the other movements would happen at 1727, which is a traditional interchange design. In this case, Highway 14 would be going up and over that local road. And the reason, traditionally, we would typically not have a trunk highway, it's easier to have the local road go over. The reason we're doing that here is just the proximity to the railroad, that we wouldn't be able to get that county road up and over the highway and back down by the time we're hitting the railroad tracks. And it'd be a very long bridge to go over the highway and the railroad. So we, at this point, are showing the highway over the county road there. So benefits, this is the lowest cost. And again, this is where I mentioned that first one with that 30 million difference. It's the lowest cost by $30 million, but again, as you can see, the trade-off is access here. Lowest cost, and highest safety as well. With access, reduction in access, you usually see an improvement in safety. It is a very traditional interchange design that people are familiar with. And you do still maintain some access at County Road 56. I know we had a lot of discussions about that as a committee. It's not typical to install an interchange and like this and keep access on a highway. It's usually something within a mile or two, you take all access away. So that still is a benefit, but it is less access than is there today for sure. The other thing that I wanted to mention with this is definitely some traffic pattern shifts with this because of the change in access at County Road 56. And I have some information on that on the next slides because we are trying to do our best to explain what that might be with our crystal ball here. So looking at, forecasted volume. So we're looking out 20 years to 2045. And we're looking at those left turns that would be taken away. So we've grown with our forecasted volumes, the left turns, and these are daily trips, so not just peak hours, but over the course of an entire day, there would be, in 20 years, 2,700 left turns and 950, so left turns toward Mankato and 950 left turns in off the highway. And so where do those trips go, right? If there's a new interchange and those left turns are removed. So on the next slide, what we're trying to show here is it really kind of depends what part of the community they're coming from. That's, if you add those two numbers up, that's about 3,650 trips, right? 3,600 trips. So if they are they to and from the east side of Eagle Lake, you know, and they're maybe going towards, let's say, Rochester or Janesville, they might use Parkway and use the interchange and continue that way. And they would likely use, you know, that new interchange. On the next slide, if their destination is Mankato and they're already on the west side of Eagle Lake, they're probably going to use the county road system and go use the County Road 12 interchange. So 3,600 trips do need to reroute with that concept D. Are they all going to use Parkway Avenue? Maybe. Are they going to half use the new interchange and half use the county road system? Maybe. Is it going to be an 80-20, 70-30, 60-40? You know, it really kind of depends who and where, you know, they're coming from and going to. So just wanted to be really transparent that yes, there will need to be some traffic rerouting with that concept D. It's just a matter of, you know, who and where they're coming from and going to. And then I know this is a lot of text here, but we also then do some calculations to look at, okay, what is the cost of these different concepts? And how do what's the value of the benefits from a mobility, you know, flow standpoint and a safety standpoint, and how does that work out in terms of a ratio? These costs are the whole corridor. So it also includes Highway 60. It's not just these Eagle Lake centric concepts I've shown you so far. It's the entire thing. But just wanted to show you that, you know, concepts A, B, and C are pretty close in terms of a benefit cost ratio. They're all in about the 3 range, and then that concept D is over 5. Anything greater than 1 is a good benefit cost. So we do, you know, if it's less than benefit 1 or less than 1, it really tells you your project, you know, is not worthwhile. There is a difference though, you know, so I just wanted to show you that. And then I know you're most concerned, of course, with the Eagle Lake accesses, but I didn't want to not show you the 2 concepts at Highway 60, just really quick. So Highway 60, we have 2 different alternatives. We are also looking at a high T at that intersection. So again, in this case, the westbound lane, so the westbound back towards Eagle Lake would go up and over that intersection. The eastbound lanes would stay at grade. If you were going to head north towards Madison Lake, you would just take that turn lane and take that left and go under those westbound lanes that are up and over and head north. What we heard about this concept was looks great, serves the movements really well, but lots of concern from township residents about access. You know, how do we get on the highway? How do we get across? And then the last option, we did have a traditional interchange, which would negate that concern. You know, that would give good access and allow that north-south movement across the highway there. So I wanted to come back to my second to last slide here is what we heard from the public at the open house, online, all the different methods we collected input on these different concepts, the A, B, C, D. We heard a lot of support for the high T at County Road 56 that was in concepts A, B, and C. We did hear some concern that, you know, I still have to accelerate if I'm heading, you know, west towards Mankato. So how do I get into high-speed traffic? heard concern about limited access with the right in, right out at that location with concept D. At 55, at County Road 55, again, little support for concept B. They just didn't like that overpass with, you know, moving traffic through residential areas. At Parkway Avenue, County Road 1727, there was support for the overpass with the right in, right out, so concept A. Not much for B and C, a lot of support for concept D. And then, again, I already mentioned Highway 60, but people like that interchange. So just kind of a quick summary of all the themes we heard. Where do we go from here? There's a lot to take in, obviously. We have, again, county considerations, city considerations, MnDOT considerations. We're at a study phase. We want to leave in a place where we have as much of the agencies on the same page as possible. So again, that moving forward to seek funding really helps if people are on the same page. So we do have a joint city-county MnDOT NAPO meeting scheduled for Wednesday to really kind of dig into the details here, but would love to hear any comments or answer any questions tonight as well. And then, as I mentioned already, we have a final open house, not scheduled yet, but we're hoping to sneak it in maybe at the end of June or into early July. And then we'll be doing our recommendations and study report in July.
Thank you. A lot of good information. So I'll open up to the council for questions, if you would.
What intersection was the impetus for this study, or what again caused this traffic study for the road? Like what intersection specifically? Were people, was the concern Highway 60 and 14? Was the concern 56 and County Road 56 and 14? I'm just curious on that.
Yeah, I might have to put that back more on Mako and Jennifer, because by the time I came in, it was about the corridor, that we want to look at this entire corridor from County Road 12 to Highway 60. But I know there's a process through Mako, so I don't know.
Chris with Maple. Every year we do our Unified Planning Work Program, which is essentially a really extravagant budget of what we plan on doing for the next year. And part of that process is to request any sort of studies from our local partners that they would like to see completed. And one of the applications that we received was from Jennifer, the City of Eagle Lake. I believe that came before the council to have a resolution for submitting that at that time. So as far as a specific intersection that led to the study, I would turn that over to Jennifer if she remembers being the local requesting agency, but that is our process.
Find the actual resolution and our actual wording, but I guess my recollection was that it was just the corridor in general and the different accidents at each of the accesses. I don't remember if it was one specifically. It's just their ongoing safety concerns. And I don't think we maybe specified a specific intersection.
More questions?
Concept A, I mean, when you did your key themes, and I was at the last open house and listened to a lot of the residents, and I guess not even residents, it was residents and commuters on Highway 14, so not all Eagle Lake, some Madison Lake and stuff that use it often, and what their comments were and stuff, but when a lot of them went to mainly Concept A, there was a lot of support for the high T, and out of your 4, 3 of the 4 had the high T. But I kind of feel like you guys clearly, based on even your concept D, are saying, hey, D's the safest route, specifically on 14, but then you're pushing that 3,600 cars into residential that already has issues. So what's going to be the plan then when those 3,600 cars, or even just say half that amount of cars, are now coming into agency with kids crossing school, to get to school, or residents trying to get out on Parkway and are sitting there forever waiting? you're kicking the can from 14 now into the city on roads that were not redesigned for triple the amount of traffic or the safety within our residents. I mean, what's that plan then of saying, yep, 14's safe, but now we just threw a bunch of traffic into Eagle Lake, good luck, guys.
Yeah, and that's kind of the concern on where I was coming at with the question about what the impetus was, because I know that the impetus of this conversation was the Casey's intersection. I also know that there was an accident at 17 and 14, but my biggest concern on this is, and echoing what Beth said too, is access at County Road 56. I think diverting 2,700 cars onto the county road through Eagle Lake could cause, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You might have less accidents on Highway 14, but then now you have Bobby Sue walking home from school getting hit by a car on Parkway crossing the street. I think, as far as, I'm not going to speak on behalf of Eagle Lake, but I think the sentiment that we would probably share on a thought level would be that, we would probably not want to have access removed at County Road 56 whatsoever. I get it, numbers and all these wonderful formulas that Excel can do. But I think, at the end of the day, people are going to want to have access. 2,700 people turning left on Highway 14 to go to, Mankato or Menards or what have you on the east side of town. That's probably what the majority of that traffic is, and going into work and stuff like that. I think I'm a little concerned that options B and C were taken out. I think that those could still be valid options. Otherwise, I'd say just leave the highway the way it is. In the sense of the J turns on the intersection out there, just to keep access for people.
What's the point on concept A of adding a right in, right out? I don't even know what it would be considered, if it's considered 50 or what it is, or 55.
27. No, it is.
It's the one that's right by the cemetery. What's the purpose of, because that's not there right now, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So what is the benefit, I guess I should say, of adding that in when everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, a majority of the people at the open house were not in support of the Lee Ray overpass? Is there, I'm just seeing, you're saying right-ins, right-outs can be dangerous because you got people going 70, 75, and all of a sudden someone's turning out and going 30 at the time, What benefit does that have when they could just go a little bit and go to the interchange?
So with concept A, the thought process, I should say, behind concept A was to come up with something that wasn't a traditional interchange, just to try to could we do something that kept costs down a bit further than a traditional interchange? So it is just an overpass at 1727. We're just trying to not have the traditional ramp design, trying to keep the costs down. We did, kind of playing with options since that time, have looked at, could we do a pairing of concept D, like a traditional interchange at 1727 and a high T?
Right, that was gonna be my question, is can we do a high T and an interchange
It's
and
still-
omit the rest of it?
You could, it's still in the same high cost range.
But at what
Doesn't
point is
change.
high cost? I mean, I think anybody that has been here the last 15 years can see that, we fixed it, we put a J-turn in and we added 12 interchange. Well, the accidents went down because those that don't like the J-turn just go 17 all the way in and then get hit rear-ended on the roundabouts or deal with all of that chaos. So your guys, the whole statistics is always gonna look better because people are scared to use what's there, so they find a different route. That's just what we're doing here, is just giving more confusing things or pushing people to different areas that they shouldn't be in. They should not be going from Highway 14, racing down Agency to go to St. Clair. They should not be doing that. We already have enough issues with that. I don't go on 598th, but I gotta assume that that's the same as what it is on both sides of town. And I'm not speaking on behalf of Eagle Lake, I'm speaking mainly on behalf of myself, that if we don't do a high T and a full interchange, the project's a failure in years, and we're gonna just be fixing it again, in my opinion. Our roads that we just did reconstruction on that not long ago.
Probably.
Are those rated for the amount of traffic that option D would propose? Is 598th rated for the amount of traffic that is currently proposed?
I'd be very much more concerned about 598th than agency because it's not wide, there's a giant hill in the middle, there's a lot of access to it.
So then your guys' cost savings is gonna cost our residents more money because we are going to have to redo roads more often at a higher rate than what doing that right the first time would be. And potentially, hopefully not, but lives of kids or adults that are walking, and if you're not a resident here, some of them just don't care, and they just, even if they are, they just, I don't know, I feel like we're missing the boat on some of this.
When I think, we keep hearing about cost, but was there ever, cost is cost, right? And it's all relative, but it seems like our neighbor to the west doesn't have that same weight that we have with cost. Does that make any sense with being a little politically correct as opposed to what I want to say? I don't see why we're really hung up on cost right now, knowing that this is a 5 or 10 year or even 15 year, knowing that the cheapest time to build is today. And that's always the case. Actually, the cheapest time to build was last year. But yeah, pushing a lot of this traffic, we're not set up. We're going to make up that cost savings that you're saying between option A and D by the amount of infrastructure that Eagle Lake's going to have to improve. Agency will have to be improved. 598th will have to be improved. We're going to have to work through getting other connectivity, maybe to the south, from Hoffman. So there's going to be, and I know there's plans, to bring some of those roads out from Mankato. But, for me, I think the best case scenario is a high T at Casey's, a full interchange at 17, and the full interchange at 60. Then you can bring traffic off of 60 eventually down south to St. Clair with it would have to be a new county road, obviously, but for us, and that cuts off some access, but it leaves the high-value access points that we still enjoy today.
Well, my question, who's concerned about cost? Is my question.
Well, I think, it's been a discussion at the PMT, which is all the agencies. So, Jennifer's at the table, but I'm not saying Jennifer's raising that card. It's been the county and MnDOT mostly because, they know what it takes to get these projects done. And I don't remember the stats, and I know that when we have this meeting on Wednesday, I'm sure you can ask Sam from MnDOT to say the stats, but just what percentage of the program, of MnDOT's current District 7 program is this type of dollars, and it was the majority of their current program. There are competitive funding sources that come around that this would definitely take, but to get one intersection funded is pretty difficult. So to get multiple is where it starts to become more difficult. But that's what we need to talk about, right?
Right. So, no, I think
Well, I just,
Yeah.
I drive 169 all the time, and
it doesn't
They're all
seem to be
over
a
the
shortage
place.
of money
Yeah, so
at other places.
I know every resident here would pay whatever it costs to fix the intersections. So you
Well,
can
not
keep
any
bringing up costs.
I don't even think just residents, I think the commuters that, I know some of you drive it every day, that are not Eagle Lake residents, that would say it needs to get fixed.
To me, a life isn't something that you go cheap with.
Understood.
That's just my opinion.
I think the biggest thing, to summarize what I was kind of saying earlier too, is I think that there's two components, safety and access. I wasn't trying to downplay the safety side of things by saying, let's keep the J turn, but I think that the big sentiment will be you know, keeping access, especially because there's a lot of traffic that does go west into Mankato.
Yeah. And just to respond to that, I didn't cover that in detail, but at some point, if it grows as it's being projected, those J-turns will fail. So that's why we're looking at this, right? There is a point when they do not work any longer, so yeah, doing nothing is not an option either.
Any more questions? I think we do have a couple meetings this week, you know, on that specific thing. We're obviously, we see a lot of things happening west, you know, we're wanting to, you know, all the, you know, even the new section of 14 from Mankato to New Ulm, every small town got a full interchange. One, obviously, but we're just looking for that same type of thing. You know, we're growing both ways, east and west, you know, so we're going to need to, per se. And we're willing to take some money from Mankato to make that happen, so. Chris?
Thank you for your
no,
input. I
perfect.
appreciate
No.
it, and we'll share it Wednesday.
No, this is great. Thank you for all this information. It was really good. All right, any more discussion on that? We're moving on to our next presentation.
Next up is Jan Hughes,
Ms. Hughes?
110 Plainview Street. And Jan is here to talk to you about requesting review of proposed sidewalk with the reconstruction project planned.
Right. I understand that while we were on vacation, the city council approved a 6-foot wide sidewalk on Plainview Street. And I have no real idea why this was approved. And I would like the sidewalk to stay at 5 foot, which meets and exceeds any ADA requirements. There are a couple 6-foot wide sidewalks. One is along Agency Street, which is a county road. The other one is just a partial one, but in the, it's by the school. But in residential areas, it's 5 foot wide or less. And I would like it to stay 5 foot wide because I don't see any reason for it to take another foot of property. This would be detrimental to the dentist office. They're already short on parking space, and 1 foot might not seem a lot, but they're already crowded, and it would hurt them. And as far as I was told, it was for ease of maintenance. Well, we have a sidewalk to curb, and I have to shovel that. And I can tell you it's not for ease of my maintenance to shovel an extra foot along the front of my house. So, and I was also told that it was only an additional $3,000 for concrete, but I'd like to tell you that I'll take the $3,000. You know, it's not much in the grand scheme of things, but it's still money, and I don't see any reason for it. Do you guys have any questions for me? I mean, is there a reason why it's supposed to be 6 foot wide? There are none other ones in a residential
I
area.
believe the reason was, and there's people here that will keep me honest, is more of a safety. As you walk side by side and coming away from the traffic lane, 6 feet it gives you a comfortable walking for 2 people walking side by side, and maintain a safety buffer to the roadway.
But if ADA has 5 foot,
That just means it's a wheelchair accessible.
so, but are you going to then, I looked in all the new divisions in town, 5 foot. So I would like to know, I would like you to change it from the council, city council approved 6 foot to 5 foot. 2 people can walk side by side. 2 wheelchairs can pass, especially since we meet the requirement of 2 wheelchairs passing within 100 feet. And with all the driveways along our short section of Plainview Street, there's plenty of room. It meets every definition, every reasonable cause for, you know, is there enough space? Yes, there is. So
The good news is it's down from 8 feet that we started at.
It's
No,
what?
It's down from 8 feet. I'm just, okay. But no, we'll take that, a look at that, we're not final yet, so,
Okay. I
and-
just would like it to change to 6 feet, and I've talked to
You'd like it to
every,
change to 6 feet?
every
Okay.
home except one, and the business, Eagle Lake Family Dentistry, as far as this, and no one wants a 6 foot wide. We have neighbors here, and we all would like 5 foot,
Okay,
okay? That's it. Thank you.
perfect. We'll take a look at that as we get toward the finalized portion
And
of it.
when will that be known? When will you make your decision?
Good question.
Mayor Whittington, because I know I've made the comment before, and I'm fine myself going on record saying again, I can fully understand why residents would want to keep it at 5 foot. As a parent with 2 young kids that go to the elementary school, that we go to fire department events, that I drive it every day when I drop my kids off, that road is extremely narrow when there's parking specifically on both sides. I'm in 100% favor of a 6 foot sidewalk from the safety of the pedestrians walking. Put yourself in someone else's shoes that you don't live on that street, and I specifically rode bike with my kids to school one of the days and went that route. I rode on the street as I would normally do, and my kids had to go single file on that road to be able to go safely, and I didn't feel comfortable on the street with heavy traffic and weaving in and out of the parked cars. So from a resident using that road, I'm in full support of a 6 foot sidewalk or no parking on the street at all on that road. Which is not ideal then for residents that are living on that road. You need to be able to park on your streets.
So then are the
So-
6 foot sidewalks going to be going in on LeSueur? Where there's also a lot of children walking to school or bicycling to school?
I haven't had no issue on that because it's a wider road.
Is that on the curb? Sidewalk? So that's the difference. Your sidewalk is on the curb. That other sidewalk, the 5 foot sidewalk is not on the
It's
curb.
not 5 foot in all the places on LeSueur at all.
You mean the new construction?
On LeSueur, between Plainview and Agency, it's not 5 foot
It's not currently.
currently. It is
Right.
not all 5 foot. And as far as bicycles, when I was younger and taking bicycle lessons, we were taught that you have to ride single file. It's not
Right.
safe to ride double.
And my kids do. I'm saying, but there's traffic going both directions.
But on the sidewalk, if they ride on the sidewalk,
Correct.
which they can do, they should be single file.
Correct.
And
But
5
if you-
foot is
but-
wide enough.
Correct, okay. I'm saying if bikes are going both north-south, right? If they're going both ways, you're gonna be side by side at some point unless they take your grass.
Or unless they just stop at a driveway,
Correct.
and there's plenty of driveways on our street.
To make it like the other streets, we would come a foot off the curb and have grass there, and then a 5 foot sidewalk. That's how the new construction is happening on a non-curb sidewalk, right?
So they're going to be 5 foot wide too.
They're 5 foot wide, but they're off the curb. They're
Yes,
not.
but they're going to be 5 foot wide.
Yes,
But there's a grass
but there's a
buffer.
grass buffer
Right, I
between the
understand
street
that, but
and
the-
the
But on
sidewalk.
LeSueur, they're going to, the new sidewalks on LeSueur are going to be 5 foot wide.
Right.
Right, okay. But I'm just-
So that means the edge of the sidewalk is 6 feet off the road.
Okay, and ours is currently
5 feet off the road.
5 feet 6 inches off the street.
Okay. So it'll
With
be
the
another, it'll be another foot.
Well,
But
I
it's
mean,
the same thing.
As far as I'm concerned, I mean, we do these things because we ask the experts, and that's where we get our, our information from. But I 100%, feel what she's saying.
Right.
It's her yard, supposedly.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't think there's, that street is so short, and maybe it's used a lot, but I would have no issue keeping it 5 feet. That's just my opinion.
And as we all know, the experts can be wrong.
No, I'm just saying that,
As
no,
opposed to like City of Mankato.
no, I know, I'm just saying, like, when we get recommendations, we're not gonna go off, someone that cleans, someone that sells real estate, and someone that does signs for roads. So, we listen to the people that come and present to us, and that's why we vote for the things we do.
Okay.
But then we don't, when you come and talk to us, now we can have discussion about
Yeah.
it, so.
And I can understand, when you get closer to the school, like after the tennis court or something, but, in the residential area. But anyway, I request that you review that, and I would vote that we stay with the 5-foot wide sidewalk.
Okay.
Thank you.
We will take a look and we'll work with Brian on why we did that. But knowing that it's a very busy streets and that's the reason it's that wide is it's on the curb. That's how it was designed. Now, the other sidewalks you're talking about, I'm not familiar with, so I want to take a look at those and see what they are.
And then our street is going to be widened 6 inches, is that the deal?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Just
So
while
we'll-
we're here.
Mrs. Hughes, we'll take a look at it and
Okay,
and
thank you.
we will get back to you and figure out what we need to do, so. All right, I think that leads into Brian.
Good evening. Jennifer asked me to come here, and certainly, I guess before, I'm happy to answer any questions regarding that topic, unless we'd like to leave it and talk about the broader.
I think we leave that because I do want to take a look and maybe sit down with you and Jennifer and take a look at the sidewalks and making sure that we're consistent across the board, right? And make sure it makes sense, what we're doing,
Understood.
so.
So as you know, we awarded the project last month to DMI. Since then, we've been working with them to execute the contracts, work through some of the startup activities that are involved with that, and that's going great. We have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for tomorrow, so we're going to get together with DMI as well as CenterPoint, the city, all the partners, and just get together in one room and talk about a few things. Usually one of the main topics at that meeting is schedule. I have had some preliminary discussions with Dirt Merchant on the schedule. As you might remember, with the beginning of this project, we did allow a flexible schedule. It appears that DMI is electing to flex the schedule a little bit. At this point, they are thinking that they will conduct most of the construction in 2026. Their workload is such that that would work better for them, and that's well in the bounds of the contract. So at this point, I don't think that's final at this point, but they do plan to not begin any major heavy construction this year in 2026. In 2025, excuse me, they plan to begin in 2026. There is a small chance that if weather stays very dry throughout the summer, that they might start a very small part of the project, kind of at the east end, towards the end of the summer. But at this point, the assumption is 2026 will be the entire project. With that, we are proposing that the assessment hearing be delayed at this point until some more activity is done. That'll be tied to bonding as well. Financial advice was such that we hold off for a little bit on that. So more to come on that. I haven't forgot about it or anything like that, but the assessment hearing will be coming a little bit later. Staff and I are working to prepare a first newsletter for the project, even though it's not starting. We do want to keep the residents informed. So after we have our meeting tomorrow, we'll learn a little bit more about what small utilities are doing, what the contractor's thinking. And shortly after that, we do plan to send out the first of several newsletters to the residents so that they're all informed about what's going on. I guess one final note I want to make, even though we don't expect to see heavy construction this year, I do expect that we might see some activity with Excel and CenterPoint potentially getting their stuff moved. With that, they don't close blocks of roads or anything like we would have to. You're probably familiar with what that work looks like. But just a note I wanted to make on that. That's all the points I had for this evening. Do you have any questions about that project?
Pricing's locked in, right? So no matter what happens next year, we're still at the 4 or 6? I can't remember exactly what the number is.
Talk about pricing.
The pricing, yeah.
Construction was 3.8.
3.8, okay. And do you see any issue with the amount of work that they can't get it done in one construction season?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's very doable.
Okay.
What we didn't want to do, or coming into this, we did get a little bit later of a start, so, you know, weren't sure how the bidding schedule would materialize, and what we didn't want is, okay, now all of a sudden we're starting in July, and we have to get things opened up for the school right away, and it's really putting them in a pinch, so. Really, the goal again was to give the contractor the control
Flexibility.
of his schedule.
Okay.
They're generally creative, and they're able to work that schedule.
Any other questions? Anything to add, Jennifer?
As Brian alluded to, we've been in communication with Shan Sweeney, our financial advisor, on bonding and timing of that, so we'll continue those discussions. But prior to the contract being awarded, Brian and I and Public Works Director Hartman met with, I believe you were there at that meeting, maybe you weren't. We met with some representatives from the school to talk about the timing, and so, okay, you weren't at that meeting. Didn't need to be, but the purpose of that meeting was just to talk about, this is a proposed project and kind of find out their schedule things. Well, as it turns out, they're gonna be doing some renovations at the school next summer, and as we understand it, I think I understand correctly, they're not gonna have any programming, so in a way, it will actually work out better, because we were concerned about access with ACES and any programming they had, so I thought that was kind of one good thing that was to come out of delaying it to one season, so. But as Brian and I have talked about too, open communication with residents is of the utmost importance, so after tomorrow's pre-construction meeting, we're gonna work together and try to get something out and just try to keep the free flow of information.
Any more questions?
I will just say, I was talking to Kevin Depute from DMI today about a few other things, and he said doing the project in this setup where they have the leverage to, you know, push stuff off, he said it's an amazing way to save money if we're looking at doing other projects too.
No, I was totally shocked at the number that came back after our initial estimate. So. All right. I guess we don't have any more questions? All right.
Great,
Thanks,
thank you.
Brian. All right, so we'll head into new business. We're taking a look at the ordinance amendment for chapter 4.
Yep. And as Deputy City Clerk Carrie Roush reminded, we'll just make sure we do a roll call vote with it being
okay.
ordinance amendment. Thank you.
All right, any questions? All right, Carrie? Roll call?
Mr. Steinberg?
Yes.
Mrs. Rorich?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Whittington?
Yes. All right, so I'm assuming that was unanimous, so it passes, so we can move on to the next one. EDA recommendations approve RLF request for Clear Path Psychiatry.
All right, Mayor Whittington and City Council. The EDA was pleased to receive a revolving loan fund application. We also kind of shortened that up, abbreviate as RLF. We got an application from Clear Path Psychiatry PLLC. They're requesting a loan in the amount of $9,500. And the purpose of the loan is to support the furnishing and equipping of a new professional office, which will be located at 100 South 2nd Street, Suite B in Eagle Lake. And in case you're not familiar with that, that's right on Parkway Avenue. The loan will be issued at an interest rate of 6% and repaid over a 5-year term. The applicant will be required to provide a personal guarantee for the full loan amount. Just a little more detail on the requested funds. They'll be used for setup of telepsychiatry infrastructure, purchase of essential technology such as computers, printer, scanner, and the installation of internet, phone, and electronic medical records system. A little bit about ClearPath Psychiatry. They offer comprehensive outpatient psychiatric services for adults, which includes diagnostic evaluations, medication management, and care coordination. Something unique about this request is the clinic would provide extended evening and weekend hours, which would help address a significant need for increased access to mental health services in Eagle Lake and the surrounding region. The EDA reviewed the request and feels that the project aligns with EDA's mission to stimulate local economic growth and improve the quality of life in Eagle Lake by supporting small business and expanding community services. Enhancing access to mental health care is a meaningful investment in the community well-being and workforce stability. So with that, the EDA recommends that the City Council approve the revolving loan fund application for $9,500, subject to the applicant's guarantee. And then just for reference purposes, in the packet, there's also just a brief summary business plan and the guidelines for the application for revolving loan fund. We're very excited to have a new business come to Eagle Lake, and I can tell you that the psychiatry office has been looking for a location for a number of months now, and so it's really exciting to hear that they found a location. So great to add another business to our list.
Any more questions?
No, I was there for it, and he seems like a really nice guy, and, you know, already has thoughts of maybe growing as well in Eagle Lake, so I mean, he seems like he likes our town and wants to stay here and even expand here if he can at some point, so, yeah, he was awesome to talk to and listen from.
And he's an Eagle Lake resident, which is great as well. If there's no other questions, I'd look for a motion to approve the loan.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. It's raining. All right, so number 3, recommendations from Planning Commission related to the Highway 14. Jennifer, do you have this?
Yeah, Mayor and City Council, I will just kind of review. A couple months ago, I believe it was at the April Planning Commission meeting, we had talked about encouraging Planning Commission members to go to the open house and find out what the options or alternatives being considered were, ask questions, because it does have a planning impact as we look at the future of Eagle Lake and how we want to grow. And then following that, there was a discussion by the commission members and just a strong recommendation to the City Council to please consider making sure that we ensure access to Eagle Lake, and that was one of the main things. I mean, they didn't pull out any specific of the options, just that was their message, just to let you know that they want to make sure that we have 2 full access points, and then just encourage the city to talk to local federal legislators. And I did tell them that we've been talking to, every time Mayor Whittington, Councilor Roach and I were in St. Paul, we talked with state legislators, and then when Mayor Whittington and I were in DC, we talked with federal legislators, and they're all aware of our concerns with Highway 14, so we'll keep that up. Just wanted to make you aware of that and get that on the record. So no formal actions needed. Just wanted to share that with you this evening. I have a copy of their minutes as well.
Do you want to move into the recommendation from the EDA then?
Yes, next recommendation is from the EDA. We discussed this at the meeting. We also had some EDA members that were in attendance at the open house. The EDA discussed the importance of securing full access at the intersection of CSAH 56 and is recommending to the City Council that the City Council formally support maintaining access at CSAH 56. And they believe that maintaining full access at that location is essential to ensuring the safety and efficiency of traffic movements for residents, businesses, and emergency services, support ongoing future and future economic development, preserve and expand opportunities for commercial growth and investment in Eagle Lake. Again, the EDA just recommends that the city engage with MnDOT, Blue Earth County legislative representatives, our partners to advocate for access to this location. Again, I just include the copy of the EDA minutes as well for reference purposes.
Thank you. Number 5, request to waive utility late fee.
Mayor, Whittington City Council, city staff received a request from a former utility billing customer, Kevin Bourne. He terminated his service due to moving out of town, due to having his payment set up in PSN and then having the final, the account numbers changed slightly. So there was just kind of a miscommunication. He ended up with $10 in, drive safe, everybody, thank you.
This is the fun stuff.
Anyway, so long story short, just reviewing it with city staff, we just talked about how can we better, explain the process to our utility customers when they terminate service if they're a PSN customer or set up in that. And so we feel that the $10 should definitely be waived in this situation. So with that, just need a formal motion to approve the waiving of that late fee.
And
I'll make a
PSN
motion to waive the late fee.
All right, we got a first, second? We have a first and a second? Any other discussion?
Still believe in the chance.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. That was a quick one.
I can
I
talk
just want to know
fast.
what PSN was.
Oh, Payment Service Network.
Okay.
Yep.
You're not signed up?
No. My wife takes care of the money. All right, so number 6, the pricing for permanent protective glass barrier.
Yes, Mayor Whittington City Council, city staff is requesting approval to replace, if you guys know our front counter, we've got some plexiglass. It was put up during the COVID-19 pandemic, just as a protective measure, and we've continued it in use because it is actually very nice to have. It kind of just keeps the separation, but the downfall is that there's no speak hole, so we have a hard time communicating with residents. So we do have some pricing here. I had city staff assist with that, and there are 2 quotes. There are definitely quite a variance between the 2, but after looking at and both contractors came on site, looked at our setup, so we feel like it should be comparable. But St. Peter Glass came in $1,780. South Central Glass came in at $6,364. We feel like for our purposes here, the proposal from St. Peter Glass would be more than sufficient. It's got a speak hole, it's got a place to put papers through. And we, as I looked last week, I don't have the number written down now, but we do appear to have a small amount of one-time public safety funds. And that was because when we were approving everything, we were going off estimates, not official numbers. So right now, it does appear we've got funds available, and I would recommend that we move forward with St. Peter Glass, $1,780, using one-time public safety funds.
I'll make that motion to go with St. Peter Glass. They do a really good job too.
All right, we have a first, we have a second.
Second?
We have a first and second. Any more questions, concerns, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right,
All right.
number 7.
Mayor Whittington City Council, the next topic is about some ditch work along 598th Avenue. I'll turn over to Public Works Director Hartman in just a moment. I'll just give a quick brief background and update on a resident I talked with this morning. Public Works has identified a drainage issue in the ditch along 598th Avenue between Breckenridge Townhomes and then the residents at 21402 598th Avenue. According to Public Works, the area has become increasingly problematic for water flow, and there's some noticeable deterioration observed following recent rainfall events. So to address the issue and help prevent future flooding, Public Works is proposing to dig out and regrade the ditch, try to get the water flowing the way it should be and draining. The work is recommended to be performed by Southern Minnesota Earthworks Solutions at an estimated cost of $2,850. And then included in the packet, and I'll let Public Works Director Hartman talk more about it. He's got an expenditure request The funding for the work we paid for out of street repair funds. I just want to mention that I did receive a visit from a resident this morning that lives near this area. And while they're not opposed to the improvements being made, they were just concerned and just expressed that the city should look into if perhaps some of the damage that's happening or some of the issues are being caused by farm equipment going in and out of the ditch. So I did talk to Public Works Director Hartman. We're going to kind of monitor it and kind of wanted to get his assessment on it. So like I said, the resident wasn't opposed to the work, but just doesn't want the city to spend the money and then have it ruined right away. So we'll try to kind of keep an eye on it, maybe talk to the farmer. And I'm not sure where the farmer has access to be able to get in and out, but you know, if that's the case, we certainly don't want to put money in there and then have issues. But with that, I will turn over to Public Works Director Hartman and let him give you a little more detail.
Yeah, I think Jennifer basically explained majority of it. After the last rainfall, a couple weeks ago when we had actually, you know, a heavy rainfall, I was out there in the area and noticed majority of the water comes out on the road and around that spot and then back into the ditch. So it's a short section, you know, probably as long as this room, but it does create more issues with, you know, eroding the shoulder of the road and things like that. So I had Southern Minnesota Earthworks come and they said it'd be a fairly easy project to just dig it out and we'll actually haul the dirt and stuff to save some costs and things like that, so.
We're looking to get that done soon?
As soon
before
as
it
we
rains
can. Yeah, yep.
Any other questions, for Director Hartman? That's not something we can do with their fancy new digger?
The loader?
Maybe.
This is why I'm on IT, I'm not in heavy construction. So I'm just asking the question. I'm just asking,
There's a lot of things I can do.
just asking the question.
Are you approving more sales?
No.
Looks like you're getting an excavator.
We're gonna need a bigger garage.
Yep.
So what's the total price?
The total price was estimated at $2,850. $2,850.
Are they basically just digging it, regrading it, or?
Yeah, dig it, regrade it. We were gonna try and maybe push some of the water from the field that comes in down a little bit more, so it's in the faster part of the ditch. And
So is there a field access out there for the farmer? Is he just going?
I think it's on the gravel
Oh.
211, all the way at the
All the way
end.
to the south end of the
Yep.
field?
Yep. So that might just have to be a conversation. Hey, we put money into this ditch, you know.
Don't drive through it.
If we catch you driving through it, you can pay for it next
It
time.
was $2,850.
Right.
I think it makes sense, you know, it's just, I'm assuming it's a safety issue over there if we get a bunch of water over the road. So I'd look for a motion to approve the.
Motion.
And a second. We have a first and second, any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. And pricing to replace the lift station control panel.
All right, I'll turn this over to Public Works Director Hartman.
So I don't remember exactly when, but a few months ago, we had some issues with our lift station panel. We lost basically all power to it. After having Plug Electric and Minnesota Pump come out, they were able to temporarily wire it for a cheaper cost for now. At this point, it's either we put a new panel in that we can, you know, bring up with our SCADA system, or we just start throwing a bunch of parts and refurbish the existing panel and put just as much money into it. And they try to do some process of eliminations, but they think there's too many things that are messed up in there that, you know, they can't specifically say it's one thing or another. So we're requesting that we get a new panel installed that will hook up to our SCADA system. And just to give you some background, talking with Minnesota Pump that's been doing our service for a long time, they think that that panel is probably 20 to 25 years old. So it's gotten a lot of life out of it.
That's some good use. Well, it makes sense that we upgraded to work with the SCADA system, so you can start remotely managing that and monitoring that. Makes a lot of sense, so. Any more questions? And this is something budgeted or something that has to,
So it wasn't something that we specifically budgeted for, but I can tell you, it's just one of those things that we absorb in our sewer fund. We know that there's gonna be things like
That makes
this that
sense.
are gonna come up, just, you try to get as much life out of it as you can, so
Okay.
we should be able to absorb it in the sewer fund.
all right. If there's no more questions, I'd look for a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. RFP for lighting, park lighting.
All right, Mayor Whittington and City Council. So we've been talking about this for quite some time now, about improving the lighting at the parks. We had a recent park board meeting, and the consensus was just to get this going, get approval from the city council this evening. However, Public Works Director Hartman and I were talking, and he is waiting for the most updated pricing from the contractor who did submit pricing previously. But that contractor has been busy and doing other work for the city and has not had a chance to update his pricing. So Andrew and I were kind of brainstorming, talking about it, and we talked about, let's do an RFP, because the other concern we had previously was only having one person interested, but we, always want to try to get multiple bids. And so by doing the RFP, we, are consistent. We can send this out to multiple vendors, and then whoever submits, pricing back is, I feel like then we have good documentation that we did have a good faith effort to try to get multiple bids, versus just, calling people not having documentation. So I put a deadline. It's not very long, but we tried, Andrew helped get me some information to try to be pretty, straightforward for the scope of work. So we're giving a deadline of June 20th, gives us some time to look it over and get it on the July council meeting. We do have money budgeted. I didn't put it obviously in the memo, but I can confirm we did budget money for this in the 2025 budget. So with that, I would recommend the city council authorize distribution of the RFP, and then we bring back a recommendation to select a contractor at the July 7th city council meeting. And I do apologize it's dragging on, but I do feel at the end of the day, this is probably the best way to do it for the city, just to make sure we get the most updated pricing and we have good documentation.
Any other questions? Makes sense to put out an RFP. We got time and so, there might be something out there we've never seen before.
Right.
Do you need any action on that?
Yes, just a motion directing staff to go ahead and release the RFP, please.
I'll make that motion.
All right. we have
I'll
a-
second.
All right, we got a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right. New pond fountain.
All right, so I'll start off with this one and turn over to Public Works Director Hartman. But basically, Public Works Director Hartman informed me last week, the good news is that he got time to get the aerator into the pond. The bad news is that when they turned it on, it didn't work. So I don't really know that there's any good news there, but that's how it was framed to me, and I thought, oh no, here we go. So Public Works sent the aerator to an electrician, and when I typed up this memo and when Public Public Works Director Hartman and I talked last week, I'm thinking worst-case scenario that we could be all summer without an aerator, so what do we need to do to get pricing for a new one? So Andrew got on the ball, got me some pricing, and that's what's in the packet tonight. Then we got news today that the aerator is fixed. They went to go pick it up and are hopefully gonna get it installed on Wednesday. However, I still feel uneasy about the condition of that aerator. It's gotta be at least 10, 15, maybe even more years old. I did call the Midwest Aqua Care Day. I tried to talk to somebody to find out what's the useful life of an aerator. I did not get a call back yet. But my concern is if for some reason, this happens again, we could be out all summer without an aerator and our pond is already looking pretty bad. So, and I know that that's not gonna fix everything, but we have to have some flow or get that water moving. I can't tell you how many people in our community have expressed frustration with me when that pond does not look nice. I've heard it many times already this year. I've gotten emails, phone calls, and I don't know what to tell people because I agree, you guys know that I'm be completely transparent. I can't stand it when that pond doesn't look nice. It bothers me. I drive by it every single day when I go to and from my house. And I know that the park is just a cornerstone of our community. So we didn't budget for this because I didn't know we'd have to replace it, but just trying to think creatively, I thought, well, we currently we're not using all of our community development budget. We could absorb the costs there. Yes, it's a large expense, but I feel like, maybe we should just have this on hand and then use our existing pump as a backup, until we, because if this goes down and we can't get it fixed again, it's probably done for the summer. I'm just gonna guess. So I'll turn over to Andrew to let him talk about it from his perspective, and what he thinks, but I'm nervous about the current aerator.
So yeah, basically, she said, we went to put it in last Thursday, I believe it was, and yeah, it no worky. So trying to get bids and by, Friday so that she could put it in the council packet, I did some research and this AquaCare is kind of the only one around that, they're out of Jordan, that sells the same, brand aerator that we have now. If we switch to a different, company and got a different brand, then we have to put a new control panel in. So then we wouldn't have a backup, so to speak. So this way, from the way they make it sound is it's just plug it in and it'll work just like the other one did with the same equipment in the control panel.
Would we be able to put both in there or no?
No, we'd have to get another panel to support it.
That sucks.
How much does the new panel cost approximately, do you suppose?
I
don't know. I don't
even
know
know.
either. I asked that same question because that was my thought too. I mean, I think if we could have two aerators, that would make a big difference. So, we used to have two.
Three.
Yeah,
As I
three.
said, I thought we had
Yep.
three. So do we only
Yep.
have one working right now in there?
We've only had one for,
Yeah.
probably 10
So
years.
that's why there's an open space and a lot of green space, because there's only one.
Yeah, because there used to be,
So the one that you got a bid for is kind of more of a spectacular looking fountain, like the one, isn't it?
it should be the same design as what we have, basically.
LED lights on it,
Yep, so we should be able to bolt the LED lights that we have onto, otherwise that's an extra, like, $2,500, I think they are now.
I wonder if it's better.
Put the new one in right away and
That's what I was thinking
Put the
too.
new one in right
Hold
away.
the refurbished as a backup.
And restore 3 fountains back down there to keep that irrigated, so then we're
Right.
not getting complaints and then it's us. You don't have to go down, I don't know, I'm not sure what kind of maintenance. It's probably
Well, there's-
chemicals, a little bit of
Yeah,
that.
so we are gonna try some new chemicals from this company, this year to alleviate, so it's supposed to take care of the duckweed and all the weeds that we have in there, so
believe
that,
it when I see it.
that's on its way, but
Well,
I think that people, like Jennifer said, love the park area, and I think that we spend a lot of money on a lot of other things that are not necessarily visible, so I would think, I think that doing a visible purchase of even looking at 3 aerators with some, with the lights on it like you have, Andrew, that would, with how Mitch has got that baseball diamond looking so nice down there, it's even more of a gem.
Jennifer, at the last park board meeting, I think we talked that, there was 25,000 or something put aside for pond enhancements and stuff like that?
So
Am I-
that's all lumped in now with the capital outlay of what's available for the park, so
Okay.
yes, I mean, we had that TIF money that we got, I can't explain it right now, but you guys were what do they call it? Basically the pass-through for that bond, and because they used the city to do that, and, so then we got that money.
Well, I guess my question being is that if there was
You have park
initially some money that was supposed to be earmarked for that, can we get what the price would be for 3 fountains going again, or does the one in the middle need to be, or could it be a little bit higher, and the 2 on the outside planking it, or whatever, so there is water movement, and if it is through these guys, is something that's discussed next week at the park board meeting, to say, because you can throw as much chemical as you want, but you get hot days and stuff, you just need movement going.
Is there more, some lakes around here, you can do some underwater aeration, it's not fountains, but it creates, is that something too that would help with the bond, or? Because
Probably.
basically it's movement, right?
Yep.
Right.
Just so it doesn't sit.
Yeah, and if you go online, this company they have a bunch of different, so they don't technically call this an aerator, this is a fountain, and then their aerators are actually like underwater bubblers.
So there's aeration underneath and
Right.
and the movement.
So have you talked with these guys of what it looks like and what else we could do that we're not exploring?
They really suggested the chemicals that they're sending us. They said they've had a lot of success with them from golf courses and things like that. So between that and then like the pond dye, they said that's still a good idea to do to block the sunlight from, letting the stuff grow.
I think we tried the chemicals, 1 fountain this year. If that doesn't work, then I think we look into getting more, either aeration underneath or more fountains or both, or, whatever it takes.
I think 2 or 3 fountains look pretty cool.
Yeah, it would look cool.
They looked really nice when they were working.
Do you just float them out there, or do you gotta like get in there and?
So I bring my kayak from home and we push it out.
We have a new volunteer, I heard, that really likes to go out and do stuff like that.
Who's that?
He's sitting to my left.
I'll grab my
So-
couple of kayaks, we'll just make a day of it.
That is another thing with some of these, yeah, so there's concrete cinder blocks that we anchor it with, like tethers. But like with some of these chemicals and stuff, it used to be, you just buy the stuff and you throw it in, and now everybody wants you to be out there spraying. So it wouldn't be a bad idea for the city to look at like a small kayak or something that, we can use to get out there and spray, and, we use to put the aerator in. We have that boat down there, but that thing leaks more than it floats, I think.
Take you less time to swim out there. So we want to table this then, or just approve it and then
Oh, 3 to 4 weeks per, yep.
approve it? All right. So I'd look for a motion to approve this.
I'll do a motion.
All right.
I'll second it.
Are we still, what? All in favor? We have 2 conversations going. I didn't know which one was going on. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
So I think what we're suggesting too is throw the new one in place and then hold the refurb and backup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Great.
perfect.
And thank you to Public Works Director Hartman. He got on the ball, got it to me. I was surprised after we had our conversation, got some phone calls made and came back with that. So I really appreciate it, because we know how important it is to the community, and just it's urgent, get this taken care of. So thank you.
Perfect. I think we're to the city administrator report.
All right, we're gonna keep this meeting under 2 hours tonight. Hopefully get everybody home before.
It all
we
depends
get-
on you.
Yes, I will talk fast. Okay, so we've got our year-to-date revenue and expense report in the packet. Any questions, as usual, just let me know. Employee leave balances, again, you're starting to see this every month now. Just let me know if any questions. Number 3, Congressman Finstead, the update on our community project funding request. So Mayor Whittington and I were out in DC, met with our federal legislators and submitted funding requests to all 3. We did get confirmation from Congressman Finstead's office that he has selected Eagle Lake's project as one of his 15 projects. That does not mean that we have funding secured, because we know this same thing happened to us last year. But we're at least keeping the process going, and we're, on their list. And so I do think that it's worthwhile to make those trips out there because, we're making an impact. It's more impactful to, and Congressman Finstead and the other legislators told us that the people that are sitting here when we were meeting with them versus just sending something in. So they are getting to talk to us and know our project. So anyways, we'll hopefully get some funding if things, everybody can get these projects moving along. Next item, City Hall entrance window cling. Just realized recently, it's funny, you go in and out of something, you kind of get used to your routine, and I just happened to look up the other day and notice that our paint is peeling on our front window, so we are going to get a new window cling. I think I included a copy in my report here, but yes, so Chad Reagan, local business owner with Pro Graphics, is gonna come over here. He said he's got it ready, just has to install it, so that'll be nice. It just has our office hours, and it includes a little blurb about the Blue Earth County Sheriff's Office, who to contact, and so that'll be nice when people come here during after hours and know who to contact. Next item, public hearing recap, Xcel Energy 345 kV transmission line project. So there was a public hearing recently held in Mankato for Xcel Energy's application for a certificate of need route permit. As we've discussed before, during the environmental scoping process, an alternate route was identified, and that would run just north of Highway 14, south of the original or the main proposed route. Obviously, from Eagle Lake's perspective, we will oppose this for a number of reasons. Impact on future development, Highway 14, how can we do any modifications if we're gonna further restrict our right-of-way? So we have until June 10th to put our concerns in writing. So I've asked Mayor Whittington to submit something. If each one of you guys want to submit something, you can, and then I'll submit something on behalf of, the city EDA, Planning Commission, City Council, strongly opposing this. And during the presentation at the public hearing, they had a handout, which is very hard to read. I don't have it electronically, but they talked about, or the judge talked about making sure that when you submit your comments that you cite some of the different factors and why we're opposing it, not just we don't want it, just give specific reasons why. So before I send that out, I'll send you a copy and have you look that over. Next item, RCCIP CSAP launch event. Mayor Whittington, Councilmember Rorich are part of the Rural Child Care Project. We have a CSAP launch on June 9th from 11:30 to 1 p.m. at City Hall, and I include an invitation in the packet if you're available to attend. Please let me know, we'll get you registered. City Hall roof leak and insurance status. So last time we had a special city council meeting, we had water pouring through the ceiling in the police office all along the east side of City Hall. Following that, contact our insurance agent, and they got a file open, had an adjuster come out, take a look. He said they will not cover the roof repair due to it being wear and tear related, even though I did argue that we have never had all along the east side of City Hall. I've never had water in my office before, or I don't know about the copy room, I don't think so. And I said, I think you should look at the weather from a week, 2 weeks prior when we had all those strong wind events, but I was not successful. And so he said, well, we'll repair the ceiling damage, but, unfortunately, our deductible is $2,500. So, the pricing that we got to, fix the ceiling is less than that, so insurance is of no use in this situation. But Public Works has been working with contractors to get quotes, for that work, and so, we'll get going with, we're gonna do a drop tile, or drop ceiling, yeah. And then, I have been in contact with 2 contractors for quotes for our roof up here, and they've been working with Public Works Director Hartman, and they've gotten on top of this roof, and then, I think, has both contractors contacted you, or just one? Was it ServPro, or, yeah, so we're waiting on KRI to get over here to get pricing from both, get that going. And the other thing with the roof thing is, I just got notice today that we've been approved again for that solar project. So, but we can't do anything with that until we figure out what we're doing with our roofs. So anyways, it'll all work itself out the way it's supposed to here. But then just to let you know, the immediate repair after the rain event with KRI was $700, and then we'll get, hopefully the final quotes for the more permanent roof repair at the July 7th meeting. Next, Fox Meadows Housing Development Update. Recently met with Troy Schramm, developer of Fox Meadows. We were talking about phase 2 of the development. He sold some more single-family lots, which is great news, on Blaze. So to the east, he would be extending that road, and got pricing from Troy, and then I sent that over to Bolton Mink, because our next step is just to do a simple developers agreement for phase 2, but our main concern is just making sure we have the financial security. And so to be able to figure out what that number is, we have to see what the actual total project cost is. So I'll be working with him on that, and then we may have to do a special city council meeting, because I know they want to get their contractor out there sometime in June and get this going. So, we gotta make sure that we have everything in place, and I gotta get all the information from them before we can.
Is that part
Finalize
of the
that.
PUD stuff or not?
Nope, that's all single family.
Okay.
So. City Hall generator status, good news is everything's here installed. Final startup testing is scheduled for Wednesday, and then at that point, if everything is good, it's fully operational, we're ready to go. So that's, I think, really a good thing for the, kind of a feather in the cap for the city council, that we have 2 generators. That's something we've been going a long time, that we should have had for many, many years ago. So kudos to you guys for making sure we got that done. Bauer Jackson edition, just heard from 2 developers last week, Justin Jackson, Justin Bauer. You might not remember this, but they had a preliminary final plat approved in 2024, and they're right off of Industrial Drive behind Valley Lane. So, it's just bare, eggland right now, but they are wanting to get going on that here in, the summer of 2025. So where we sit with that, the developer's agreement was never, signed, and the plat, was approved but not recorded. So I conveyed that to the developer, so they know so we have a meeting set up later this week. They need to bring in the plat for us to sign, and then they have to record the plat. And then as far as the developer's agreement, we gotta get that signed, and we gotta make sure that the city has all the easements we need, because of, I don't know if you guys remember, but that's where we were talking about water main looping and all that stuff for many years, and we couldn't get the easements before this property sold hands. Now that the property sold hands, we need to get the easements. And just real quick, I have 2 more things I gotta add. CRP update on engineering and timeline. Good news, I submitted an RFP draft and heard back today from my contact with DOT, and so we are on track. They will keep moving this forward, so we should be able to get the $164,000 in engineering, so that should be a go. But there's lots of processes to jump through yet, but I'm confident that should work out. And then the last item I have is the 2024 population household estimates. Did I give you guys a copy of that? Did I give you something that looks like this? Okay, perfect. It came in today's mail, and I'm happy to report that our population is now, well, our 2024 estimate was at 3,346. So we just keep moving on up, so that's great, and the more,
Is that calculation right this time?
yeah, let's hope so. So, that, we were at 3,278, then they dropped us down to 3,266, and now we're back to 3,346. So let's just hope it keeps trending upward. It should. And then I guess one final thing, I happened to see an email come in during the meeting. It was from a resident who had requested some more detail with a conversation that took place at the last month's meeting about the sidewalk and ATVs. And I had responded previously to the resident that, the minutes were already drafted and that I didn't have the authority to change the minutes. He would have to come to the council, request that more detail be added. But by the time I got this email, it was at 6:42 tonight and the minutes were already approved. So I'm just gonna respond back to the resident. He asked me in his email, he said, "Hello, Jennifer, I'm just getting back to this email. Could you possibly bring this forth during tonight's meeting? I'm not able to attend tonight." But the minutes were already approved, so I'll just respond back to the resident. The minutes were approved. If you want to pursue this further, you have to come to the next meeting and present a request to the council. All right, with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Right. Council member reports. Garrett?
I don't have anything. Neither.
Summer Sounds?
Shirts
on
are
track?
made,
Shirts
ready
are
to
made?
go.
You got a big one for me?
Yeah,
All right, perfect.
what size are you? You don't have to say it.
We'll talk later. Got nothing? I don't have anything either, so I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion. Second.
All right. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All in favor, aye.
Well, I'm excited about Summer Sounds.
Yeah, yeah, the shirts came in, they're black this year, they're kinda sweet. I didn't see